Hey, gang. Um, Today we're going to be doing presentations. This is, of course, your computer graphics class. I think what we'll do is, I think last time I started from the top and went down. So I think I'll start from the bottom and go up this time on the teams. The lead guys and girls, you guys will be the first ones to present. Before I launch into it, though, I had two teams that did not have. I have everybody's presentation now, but there were two teams that didn't get them to me until A, I sent a reminder, and B, I didn't get them until like a couple of minutes ago. And you need to get your presentations to me by 10 a.m., no later than 10 a.m. on the days that your team is going to present. That gives me a chance to check the file, make sure it's okay, open it up, look over your presentation. You know, you can get a general feel for where you guys are. That I prefer doing that than than not. Okay. So we're going to start with the weed group. Who needs screen share capabilities on that one? Who needs screen share?
Jason.
Jason. Let's see. Jason. There you are, Jason. Okay, Jason, you have screen share.
Can you see this okay?
Okay. I can see it fine. You guys have about 10 minutes. Take it away.
All right. Hello, everyone. We are the We and Ed 3090 Ti group. And my name is Jason. We also have Brian, Noah, Ross as well. And our project is the Puzzle Escape Room. So just as a quick little recap, our project is essentially, we have these, what we decided on, 5 rooms that we will have some kind of puzzle or hidden riddle that you must solve in order to escape from the room and proceed to the next room. You're going to be entering the code or whatever it is, the solution to the puzzle on a keypad next to the door, and the door will open once you successfully enter the code. And now I'll hand it off to Ross to talk about the first 2 rooms.
All right, so for our first room, we're going to do a furniture puzzle. It's going to be like a small office space, which you'll see later. We actually have a prototype of it where we have a desk, some chairs, a plant, and maybe some other items that we plan on adding potentially. There's going to be a door with what we call the SIR, the segmented information receptacle. And with that, there'll be a 5x5 tile on the floor that's also on the SIR information receptacle, and each of the tiles correspond to each other, and the SIR will give you a layout for you to then realize that you have to do that in the room by rearranging the furniture and giving the same layout onto the ground using the furniture. And that will obviously be what opens the door and brings you into the next room. We do have a small, later on whenever we do our demo, we do have a small prototype of the current room as it stands. So you'll be able to see that later. We can move on now to room number 2. So for the second room, we want to do some sort of riddle puzzle where it's going to be in a museum type locale where there's going to be a bunch of different riddles around the room. The door is going to provide a MAM on it, which stands for Modulated Answer Advancement Manifold. It's going to take a single word input, and that single word will be figured out by using the various riddles around the room. Currently, we're playing with the idea of having a bunch of little objects that have riddles about them, where one of them leads to the next, and eventually, whenever you get to the end, you get a single word answer for the final riddle, and that will allow you to open the door into the next room. So I will now hand it off to Noah for room number 3.
So for room number 3, we're going to be focusing on doing a room where you walk in and it's just full of clocks and mirrors. So think about like an infinity room, just clocks everywhere going crazy. And the key is that one of the clocks, if you're looking in, one of the mirrors will be stopped at a certain time. And then going along with our previous theme of having fun little names for each of the door entry keypads, this one will be called the DEER, the Designated Entry Area Reader. And its answer will just be the stop clock's time. And you can go ahead. And then for a couple other room themes that we're working on, but we don't quite have fleshed out as well, we have a perspective-based room where everything's kind of optical illusions, and you have to be standing in certain spots in the room to be able to see things. And that would give you some kind of hint as to how to move on to the next room. And then the final room that we want to do that will be a little bit harder to implement would be a tilt maze, where basically the room would spin around you depending on which wall you touch, and it would actually move the entire environment, rotating 90 degrees in whichever direction of the wall you touch. Now I'll hand it off to Brian. I'm sorry, to Brian with the next step.
So we found a resource that's like going to be really helpful for getting really high quality assets. It's called Quixel. It's a website that offers a bunch of free, really high quality assets that can be all imported straight into Unreal. As you can see, like they've got like plants, they've got doors, and they can be up to like 4K, 8K resolution. They've got everything small from like bread to, you know, like big landscapes. So I thought maybe this wasn't just going to be helpful for us. Maybe some of the other groups would want to see and know what this was about, because we thought this would be really helpful. And then our next slide was about our plans for next week and beyond. So for next week, we want to have the logic done for our keypad readers, the sir, the ma'am, and hopefully the DEER, so that when we actually go through and like you're trying to get to the next room, it actually opens the door. We want to have room 1 actually completed and filled out, and we want to have a good plan for what we want room 2 to look like, so we can do that in the next week. I think right now we're trying to do like a room a week, so we thought like by the time we have the midterm, we'll have about 3 rooms done, and that's why we have only got those ones fully planned out. And we've got the room ideas for the future, which are more subject to change. They're not set in stone yet. And finally, we want to have like a good idea of what we want to do for room 3 as well. I think now Jason wants to do the demo. This will be of room 1 and what it will look like.
All right, so just real quick before I like demo in the Unreal Editor, just show you guys the Quixel site. So basically where we're pulling these assets from, or where we're looking to pull these assets from, is the Megascans library on Quixel. And then from here, you can actually go, and once it loads, okay. So from here, you can actually go and browse different categories of the assets. So like, for example, they have different things like buildings, food, like natural structures, and just like random props or like interior design. So for example, maybe we might decide to pull like a door asset, or we might use something for like a ceiling, or just something that we put, or some kind of lighting fixture. Just little examples, but this is the site that we've mostly been looking at so far for assets to use. But anyway, now to the actual prototype.
So these Megascans, they're basically textures that you just map on objects. Is that what they are?
From my understanding, there's actual like objects that you can import, and there's textures.
Cool, got it. Thanks.
The actual texture quality on the object that we can import, we can select, which is what he was talking about with the like 4 and 8K, for example, because those are example resolutions that we could select on those particular objects. So here we have in the Unreal Editor, basically the prototype model for what we want the room to look like. Now this was really quickly done and imported from Maya, but essentially you have, what we have here is the tiles. The room is 5 by 5 and the tiles are checkered. And you can see on where we have where we're going to put the SIR, you have the keypad itself will probably include some kind of like some kind of view where you can like view the answer, or it says like correct or something, or like it just gives some kind of feedback probably right above the keypad here. But the idea here is that you will be pushing the buttons on the keypad that correspond to tiles that have furniture located on them. So if you actually look and see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tiles that have furniture located on them. So you would be pushing the same corresponding 7 tiles and the door would open. Now, for the purpose of this prototype though, this is all considered one object. So it's not actually, there's no interaction with it yet, but that is what we're going to work on implementing within the next weeks. As Brian said, we plan on doing 1 room per week and building the prototype for the next room, like fully completing 1 room. But yeah. One last little thing that I can show is that we accidentally discovered something that we could have done, that we've done by importing from Maya, the thing that we worked on, is that this ceiling actually is one way. You can see into the ceiling from the outside, but you cannot see out from it. And it actually acts as like a one-way mirror, which we might consider using in like the perspective-based room or any of the mirror-based rooms. But with that in mind, I believe this wraps up our presentation, and we will accept any questions that you have now.
I have no idea why, but I just think the Stanley Parable. Anybody play that game? Yeah, Eric is saying he gets that same kind of vibe. Yeah, I don't know why. I guess it's just offices. Is why I'm thinking that. Any questions for the group? I appreciate you guys pointing us to Quixel. I noticed in the chat there was also Sketchfab was mentioned. I haven't had a chance really to glance at that too much. It looks like they're more for buying stuff. Do they have free stuff at Sketchfab also? Okay, good. Okay. They just put premium content at the top. Yeah, that makes sense because they want to sell stuff, obviously. Okay. Thank you, guys. So next up, I guess we'll go to Nature's End. Who needs control for Nature's End?
That'll be me, Dr. Neal.
That would be Andrew.
Andrew, yes, sir.
Okay, Andrew.
Alrighty, let's see. Just share my screen. Y'all can see this okay?
Mm-hmm.
Let's see.
So our group is called Nature's End with Andrew Hall, Kyle Roussel, and Logan Simmons. We created a Trello board and have updated a lot of user stories. Thank you. Can't think of the word. And have made out more of a plan of when we really hit the ground of what we want to do, so it won't be aimlessly like trying to scramble together to be productive. We have added they're concentrated by category, and then we have separated them by color, and then so it's a little more guided, like I was saying before. Andrew will continue while we haven't really hit the ground yet.
So over the break, many of us were very far out in isolation. I did not have access to internet for pretty much the entirety of the break, so I couldn't really do any research. aside from playing with a couple of the tutorials, I've gotten a few things working in the tutorial on Unreal Engine. But several of us have, like I have a very old laptop, and so it struggles to run Unreal Engine, and Logan's computer as well. He's using a Mac, and he's been running into a lot of issues. So really, the last week or so, we've really been trying to just get the technical side of it working, just so that we can start, messing with it a little more. So we've been trying more to map out a game plan for once we get the technical side of it working. So we filled out a Trello board. We've got more of the like game concept nailed down, rather than like actually getting objects working and whatnot, for when we can get all of the libraries and stuff set up. I've got it to where I can write some code with Virtual Studio or Visual Studio, but it is very slow to import things into the Unreal Engine. But hopefully in the next week or so, we can get the rest of our technical bugs worked out. We also did lose one of our members. So we're going to try and restructure what we're going to assign to each person as well.
Who did you lose?
Caitlin Burke.
Thank you.
Sure. Kyle is going to talk about our progress currently.
So yeah, with a few technical issues that we've been having, we haven't really been able to get much going, I think. So me and Andrew have been able to do some things in Unreal. I've been playing around with that over the break as well. And yeah, we also have a GitHub. And another thing I've at least worked on was Blender, but that was giving me some problems with at least the actual software of it. So I haven't been able to continually do that. But we also have a GitHub that we have set up, and we'll be using Tortoise Git to interface our project with Visual Studios and GitHub itself. And yeah, so with these issues, hasn't been great starting off, but I've been able to at least get some knowledge now, so I can at least help out more whenever it comes time to being able to start us off, thankfully. So, yeah.
The things that we're looking to do in the next week is we're gonna be able to learn more about Unreal Engine, watching more tutorials about how to make assets on Blender. We've looked into a couple of places that have free assets, but we haven't really nailed down one kind of artistic theme, on what we want the game to look like. So finding free assets that are all kind of cohesive, and will look good together. I've also been trying to learn how to use the landscape editor in Unreal. It has its own inbuilt features, which I didn't really know before. I've only seen people make them with other tools, but it looks like it has a way to set rules for terrain generation, and I've been playing with that a little bit, but I haven't gotten anything that actually displays ground yet. It's just a height map, and it doesn't look very good, so I didn't get pictures of that because I only got that working very late last night, and it isn't anywhere close to being ready. But really just doing more research and figuring out what we need to know before we start with the Unreal Engine is our goal for the next week, at least at this point. Are there any questions?
I guess I'd make a comment and a suggestion. It sounds like you guys are having well, you went through a number of reasons while you're kind of slow off the gate. You know, I would strongly suggest that you guys reach out to your friends who are in other teams to try to get some assist on getting going more quickly. I mean, talk to your friends, go to lunch, you know, and
Sure.
Socially distanced lunch, I guess, and you know, maybe buy them a burger and pick their brain about where they're at, and you know, and you know what you need to be doing, because you guys are going to have to climb the learning curve really quickly now. I mean, I know in a lot of ways we feel like the quarter's just getting started because, you know, we were off for 2 weeks for Christmas and New Year's, and this is our first week back from that. So in a way, it feels like we're just starting the quarter. But if you actually look at the calendar, we will be at the midpoint of the quarter next Friday. So when you guys give your presentations a week from today, that is really, by the calendar, halfway through. Now, yeah, it takes a while to get started and there's a learning curve and stuff like that, I understand, but there should be demos by this point. You know, certainly by this upcoming Friday, there should be demos. Now, again, looking at the calendar, you might go, well, yeah, but our midterm presentations aren't for 3 weeks. And that is true. What I'm calling our midterm presentations are about 3 weeks from now. They're on the 27th and 29th of January. But you've got to remember, you know, these are kind of check-ins to see how everybody's doing and to try to keep your feet to the fire. But when it comes to January 27 and 29, that's a grade. And you're going to be graded by your peers. All right. So, you know, if everybody else is, you know, at a 7 and you're at a 3, you know, that you guys, I can tell you guys know you need to step it up, and you've got some good reasons why you are where you are, but I'm just reemphasizing you're right. You really need to step it up. And so I'm going to be expecting a lot of progress between now and next Friday. Next Friday, I'm going to expect a demo of some kind. Okay, guys? Y'all can do that for me. I see Logan nodding his head.
Yeah,
That's good.
I think we can get a demo working at least in a week.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. Any other questions from anybody else out there? I shouldn't be the only one asking questions, guys. Okay. All right. So thank you, Andrew. Let's see. The next team, we're going from the bottom. So the next team should be mission control. Who needs mission control?
That would be me.
Control for mission control. That would be me. That would be Eric. Needs control. Let me see if I can find Eric. Okay, Eric, you're now a co-host.
Let's see. Is this visible to everybody?
Yes, sir.
All right. So, if I'm not mistaken, I think Tony was going to start us off.
I've been muted. Can y'all hear me? Hello? Okay, sweet. For mission control, our group consists of Cody Johnson, Eric Pitts, Landon Jackson, and me, Tony Toussaint. For a summary of our progress, we have a rough initial design of the cave area of the map and added particle effects. We've altered the skybox to appear green, added moving clouds, modeled a cryogenic pod and added it to the map at the starting position, added lights in the cave where luminescent plants will be, modeled alien plants, and we still need to add textures. began modeling of an escape pod, but we ended up finding a free model for an escape pod that looked a lot better. And we've acquired some models online. We've also implemented post-processing effects, including exposure adjustment and lens flare.
Okay, so for the last like week or two, I've been trying to get up to speed with Blender, and I've been trying to find like reference images for like alien plants or something on the internet, and just try to hash those out in Blender to the best of my ability. And so these are some of the plants that I've already gotten set up. I don't actually have any textures added to them yet, but like the models themselves are complete. So adding the textures is just like the next step that we need to go through. I also modeled a cryopod, like a cryogenic stasis pod that I've placed into the map, and then I've used some of the default Unreal materials to make it not just a blank white box. The cryogenic pod is kind of going to be our idea for how we explain like why the player is where they are. We have an escape pod like crashed into a cave like through a hole in the ceiling, and the broken cryogenic pod is right next to the crashed escape pod. So that would explain why a player is just alone on an alien planet. As I was mentioning in the chat on one of the other groups, during one of the other groups' presentations, I've been looking through Sketchfab, trying to find free models, mainly just of plants at the moment. Trying to find a lot of models with like visual consistency is kind of hard because everybody has a different like style for making their models, I guess. But we're just looking to try and get some stuff that's already been made, and then like kind of maybe refit it a bit to fit better into our current game's aesthetic. This is also the aforementioned escape pod that we pulled off the internet, which looks a lot better than the one I was trying to model myself. And so I just gave up on trying to model that myself because it was going to take a lot of time to make that look anywhere near as good when we can just have one that's already been made.
Now, let me interrupt you here, Eric, for just a second. You know, I agree that the pod you guys got off the internet looks nice, but dude, I thought that your pod looked pretty damn good.
I appreciate that.
When I was looking at this, so you know, maybe if you guys, maybe if you find some free time, you can put your own back in there. I mean, you're not supposed to be able to go in it or anything. It's just an asset that's there in the environment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Dude, I like yours. I don't know. I mean, I think it looks pretty good.
I appreciate that.
Okay.
All right, I guess I'll go over the special effects. You can hear me, right? Everyone? Just making sure.
Mm.
All right, cool.
Loud and clear.
So we've got some special effects that we've implemented. Right now we have some lens flare, like that happens when you look at the sun, you can see a little bit of lens flare. And also when you look at lights in some other areas of the map, you can see some lens flare coming off of those. That's one of the special effects we added. Another one that we added is the cave lighting. So we start off with the player in a cave and then they go out of the cave. And inside the cave, we have these lights. Now, right now, they're just lights because they're going to be changed to look more like, luminescent foliage. Like there's going to be these mushrooms that grow out and they're going to be glowing different colors. But right now, we just have lights in place of where the mushrooms are going to be because we haven't fully finished the mushrooms yet. But you can see in these two pictures right now, we just chose the default first-person shooter character. So that's why we have a gun, but we're not going to have that in the final version. But you can see in the pictures that we have the two, we have the lights all throughout the cave of different colors, and it actually kind of looks good. It almost looks like the rocks are giving off natural light, and I think it looks pretty good.
And so I'm going to be going over the particle effects. This is Landon Jackson. So for this update, I have two particle effects that I've been working on. They're currently really working in progress because I don't really like how they look right now, but I'm going to be improving them over the next update. So I have the sparks update for in the flame particle effects for the escape pod and cryostasis chamber. I was thinking I could improve the sparks particle effect by making them look sharper and make them only do in intervals. I currently just constantly just spew out the same particles, and I don't really like that, so I'm going to be trying to fix that. And for the flames, I was thinking I'd make it look more realistic and then add maybe a smoking effect. And that's really all I have for the particle effects right now. And what we're planning to work on at for the next showcase would be setting up materials for new models in the Unreal Engine to acquire further models for the cave and forested areas, like Cody was talking about, getting the cave foliage for the lighting, to look into Unreal's Engine shader systems, because we were wanting to look into that for the bioluminescent plants. We're going to improve the appearance of the ground inside the cave. When we show you the demo later, you'll see that the ground does not look the best, and so we're going to be working on improving that. I already stated that we're going to improve the particle effects. I'm also going to be adding sound to said particle effects. That way you can hear it as well as see it. We're going to better integrate the exit of the cave to the outside world, because currently the cave does not look well from an outside map perspective, and we're going to create a rough outline of the forested area. And I'm going to turn it back over to Eric for the demo.
All right, I have the demo ready to go here. If I can just figure out how Zoom screen sharing works. All right, is that visible to everybody?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
All right. So, this is the starting area of our cave. As you can see, we've got the crashed escape pod here. We've got the broken stasis pod over here. And we have a big old hole in the ceiling where we assume the player somehow managed to basketball himself directly into the cave. So that's impressive. When we turn around, you can start looking around the cave and you can see the lighting that we had been showing off in the PowerPoint earlier. If I'm not mistaken, Cody, was it you that set up the lighting?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, so Cody set up the lighting. Landon actually put together this cave, which he didn't mention earlier, and I think he deserves some credit for. Got this larger open cave area. And you can already see the lens flare from the sun outside. When we come outside, you can get a better look at the skybox, which is more of a greenish tinge than a normal blue. You can see the heavy lens flare when you look at the sun. And you can also see how our cave doesn't really look as good from the outside. So we're gonna need to fix that up, probably add some like terrain around it so that it's not, so that you actually just can't look around at the top of it. But that's pretty much what we have thus far, unless any of you guys can remember anything else that I needed to cover that I didn't.
Yeah, I think that's about it.
All right.
All for me. Any questions?
Yeah. How did you guys create the cave? Is it just like how did you go about creating it?
So I looked up possible ideas of how to build the cave in the Unreal Engine, and they recommended, because that we use current assets that were already in Unreal. I thought about using an asset that wasn't in Unreal, but I just wanted to see how the rocks look. It's just literally the rock object that comes with Unreal Engine, just copy and pasted multiple times to make it look like a continuous wall.
Yeah, go ahead and click on one of them, Eric. Just one of the walls.
Yeah, the reason why I'm asking is because a lot of team projects, many teams want to create a cave-like structure, and a lot of student teams get stuck. They don't even know how to start on it, and some people build a valley and put a mountain on top of it, and some people have tried to hollow through.
I try to do that, but Unreal's doesn't. The terrain editor doesn't really work like that, because if you have terrain above, you would be able to see right through it. So there wouldn't be really a ceiling. And so I thought that this would be the best method, since, the objects can just have colliders.
So talk a little bit more about the method, because you've solved a problem here that a lot of teams struggle with.
Okay, Eric, can you go ahead and look through your the content browser and find the stone asset? If you click on content and just type in rock, I think it was called. SM rock, it's the that one. Go ahead and drag on onto the screen for me, please.
Let me get outside real quick so that it's not just dark.
And if you turn around, this is basically the same thing, just scaled very like larger. And do you know how to
Scale?
Yeah, scale it. Go ahead and scale it to 7 for most things.
I have scaled it upside down. I have somehow done negative everything instead of positive everything. That's a little bit bigger than 7, but you get the idea.
And just copy and paste that and move it over a little bit, would you?
But how do you get a ceiling on it, I guess is what I'm
It's the same
about.
thing. It's the same thing. They're literally just the rocks just rotated
Ah.
in
That
place,
is stretched out pretty
just
far.
like the wall.
Okay. And I guess you can throw a lot of them on there to make it as mountainy looking as you want to.
Yes, sir. And I also, we're still kind of discussing what we're going to be doing for the floor, but if I can get it to where it's not like wobbly, we may consider doing that
Mm-hmm.
for
That
the
looks pretty
floor.
good. And like I said, a lot of people struggle with how do I build a cave.
It took a while to figure out how to do it correctly because I didn't think it looked good, but once Cody added his lighting, it looks a lot better than it did initially.
Mm-hmm. Okay, no, it's certainly a very good start, for sure. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but there are a couple of questions in chat, I think, for you guys.
Oh.
How do I pull up chat? Right. Do you import your Blender objects into Unreal, then give them textures and such? So there's kind of 2 ways that I've gone about it. Well, actually, like 1 way, but multiple ways you can. So when you export a model from Blender, I usually export it to .fbx because that's what Unreal recommends. There's a setting you can set to where it like binds the textures that you give it in Blender onto the model so that whenever you import it into Unreal, it already has those textures on it. But you can't really get all the material settings from Blender into Unreal. A lot of them don't convert. Alternatively, you can like put them into Unreal and then put the textures on them, which is what I actually did. I need to get this chat window out of the way. Which is actually what I did for the cryopod over here. These are all like built-in Unreal textures and materials. Like that's just burnished metal, and then the tube is just glass. And how do we store the Unreal data on GitHub? So we stored it first off when you go up here into source control. I don't remember which button was here because it's changed since I created it, but like when you add it into source control, one of the options is for Git, and it gives you the option for initializing it with Git large file storage, a Unreal Engine .git ignore file, an Unreal Engine .git attributes file, which will set everything up so that you can just like add the files in. It won't add anything it doesn't need to. It won't like try to like store regular files in there. Like if it's just large binary files, it'll put them in Git large file storage automatically. For merging the maps, we all have like there is just one big branch, and as long as you don't have like 2 people editing the same map file simultaneously, it won't break. Like it's not so much just merging the project that's a problem. it's trying to perform a merge on a map file because I'm pretty sure the map files are binary files, and so they just don't merge correctly. So you just have to have like one team member like make changes to the map file, like if they're going to make changes with like nobody else editing it in that time, and then they can push it and then somebody else can make changes. It's kind of a cumbersome system, but like I think file locking is just a thing that you have to do in game development a lot anyway, because a lot of engines just store things in binary files and don't like it when multiple people are editing them at the same time.
Thanks, guys. I appreciated that. Are there any more questions for the current team, for Eric and et al? You know, Eric and his buddy
Eric
Ed
and the rest of his
Al.
pals. Yeah.
Yeah. Et al. Et.al. One comment I wanted to make was several of you I noticed in chat are talking about, you know, how slow Unreal runs, and it's true. It is a beast, and you know, it works a lot better on a desktop, especially if you've got like a gaming system, than it does on a laptop. Especially if you've got a laptop that's a couple of years older and doesn't have any kind of a graphic accelerator. One thing that you might want to keep in mind, it's not so bad since we're doing this online. So there's usually somebody who's in their dorm room, who's at their desktop, who's connecting. So you've got your horsepower there. But when we do these like in class, and people have to like bring stuff to class, and you can't really run it on a laptop, a lot of teams will make a video of their program running, and just show a video. That's not a bad idea to have that. You know, for no other reason than as a backup in case something breaks in your project right before presentation time, then you've got a video in the can that you can show. So that's just a thought. Again, it's not as big of a deal this quarter because we're doing class virtually, and so, you know, many of you are in the comfort of your dorm room, and so you can use your gaming machine or your desktop. But if you are in a situation where it runs real slow in real time or something like that, you know, you can always make a video and show that. Questions? Other questions? Okay. Why don't we move on? I think it's time for the Myconids. Who needs control for the Myconids?
Let's see, I believe you already gave us control.
Okay. Yep, I did. Take it over.
Okay, can you guys see the screen all right?
Yeah.
Now we can, yep.
Okay. Let me go ahead and present. So, Alan, if you don't mind kicking us off.
Hello. We are the Myconids. I am Alan King, Vivian Carr, Jonah Landry, and Stephanie Nemick. We'll talk about our project. So this sprint, we were focusing on the world generation of the overworld and the underworld. We got the overworld situated a bit, but we need to work on the underworld next. Then we need to start, we're going to be working on model conversion and then and creation of that. The concept art for the overworld and underworld flora, design the color scheme and art style, and creating additional monster concepts. We got most of this situated, but there are still more to work on, the concept art.
All right, and so for world generation, we were doing what some other teams were talking about with importing height maps. So we were able to get our initial landscapes created and able to get that template going that we're going to construct the rest of our open world on. And so we have a couple pictures, but there will be more of actually showing it off at the end. of how our world is set up with these generated. I'm in the process of getting the material created, which will actually make it look a lot better. But as is, it is just one of the built-in types in order just to get something on there to show off the geometry itself.
Sorry about that. As for our modeling work, I actually worked on creating a asset that we can use based off the porcelain fungus, as you can see here. These are the reference photos I actually used when I was creating the model itself. And on this next slide, you can see here a Blender preview of it, as well as the lighting underneath. I've also created a more rounded out version, you could say. Additionally, I'd like to add that I found a good plugin to use for Unreal itself that lets you directly, export from Blender into Unity, as you can see here. I'll actually post it again. I know I posted it earlier, but I'd like to go ahead and share that with everyone. There's actually a whole playlist on what you do specifically, but mainly what it lets you do is, I'll post it at the end. Mainly what it lets you do is directly take an asset and then export it immediately to Unreal, as I mentioned again. But it does it live. So if you're working on it in Blender, you say export, it'll immediately pop up in the Unreal Engine, and you can keep exporting it and it'll update the current one that you have. So it's really good for that. I believe it's especially useful for when it comes to, for if you want to export animation, it's very good for that as well. So if you're looking to add an animation and export directly to Unreal, it's really good for that. And I'll go ahead and hand it off to Jonah.
All right, so what I'm going to talk about here real quick. One of the focuses on this sprint was to solidify our art style and try to figure out exactly what direction we want to take it. And one of the first things we did for that were color schemes. And we've got some for 3 of the major biomes, starting off with the savanna here, which is going to be what's covering most of the map. It's going to be what's covering what you can already see with the current geometry. And it's just a lot of darker purple, some lighter colors, and we might shift it more towards a pastel theme depending on where we end up going, but it's that sort of idea for the colors. And then we have the watering hole, which is supposed to be a bit more of a vibrant area that's going to have different creatures than what you'd see on the savanna. And that's why it's going to be a bit brighter, it's going to have water, it's going to have just more life around it. And then we have a bit of a preemptive for the underground, which is the idea of having this sort of light colored soil on the right with these bioluminescent bright fungus using the colors more on the left, like what you see on the left and ones in the middle. And then I was going to talk to you real quick about art style. We were kind of inspired by this game called The Long Dark, which was, let me pull up my notes real quick. It's a game by Hinterland Studio, and what's interesting about their art style, it's very simplistic but still charming and stylistic. And we kind of want to aim for that same sort of simplicity, but still looking good. And then going on from there, we've got a couple other monster designs that are in the works. Now we have the ones we showed last sprint, which were the wolf and the rabbit, and those are going to be the ones we're going to have in the savanna. They're going to be one of the more common ones, as well as the idea of the predator, which it's a very, very early concept at the moment, but the idea of it is just as you are going to be a hunter in this game, hunting to survive and to rebuild, there's going to be something hunting you at the same time. The only place you're going to be safe from is the underground. And then the watering hole is going to be, the idea of it is just going to be this lake warmed by a geothermal vent, and there's going to be filter feeders in there and stuff, like this hippo-like creature that filter feeds off of chemotrophs that color the water. That's why it had that funky blue color instead of a more normal watercolor. And because they're too tough to have any sort of actual predator, instead of having a predator, there'll be like these hornbill-like birds that'll pick off parasites from them when they come up from the water, stuff like that. And then for the underground, it's supposed to be a safer area. So at the moment, it's just the idea of having these lizards that'll glow under the mushrooms, and if you walk close to them, they'll skitter away and dim. That's about what we got so far.
So, Jonah, I have a question. Do you have an art background? Because I find it interesting that you're starting with color palettes. That's a very good way of doing things to lead to a consistent design. But I think that you're the first team that I've seen that have taken that approach. So
Not a
why
formal
start with color palettes?
but I've done a lot of stuff for just D&D campaigns in the past, and Stephanie helped me kind of get things on track so that the two of us could have a more consistent design. So nothing
formal training.
formal. No, nothing formal.
It just occurred to you guys that to make a consistent game, thinking about a color scheme up front was a good approach for giving your game a particular look. Is that correct?
Yeah, it actually came to us when we were doing our early concepts, and what Stephanie had for the rabbit, what I had for the wolf were very different color-wise. We wanted to kind of streamline it.
It's a good idea. I like that. Other teams might think about that because it will lend to consistency when different people are working on different assets. If you guys haven't agreed upon, color scheme, so that's a real good idea. I like seeing that. Okay. Any other questions for the team?
We've got our demo.
Yeah, we have our demo.
Oh, sorry. Yes, let's see the demo. Definitely.
All right. So we get it. It's going to take a second to load because I am on my laptop. But so we have our geometry established. We went a little different, the third person. So we have, this was generated through those height map functions. And beyond this, it's also starting to look into, you can see it over in the distance, or I actually rolled it back because it wasn't working too well, but looking into the new built-in water functions, and also getting started on learning how the blueprints work when interacting with game objects like cameras. We implemented something where you can actually just switch between first and third person seamlessly, and able to just jump back and forth. And then also implementing both atmosphere simulation and, if I'm gonna go ahead and start this, but a day-night cycle that we just put a hotkey in to be able to simulate at higher speeds for the demo, really. And how it gets blended colors, and it does light gradients through all of that. So we're going to be able to slow that down and make that have gameplay consequences, such as being out at night being more dangerous, because that's whenever the more aggressive creatures would come out.
Okay, that's pretty cool. Any other questions for the group?
How difficult was it to get the first and third person transition going?
It wasn't terribly difficult. It was the way it is implemented. I can honestly just go ahead and show you on that. Or I closed out most of my windows, but this mostly is an exercise to familiarize with the. I closed all of the things so I get a bigger window, and now I can't remember which one's called. What's the thing at the bottom? The
content browser?
Yeah, here it is. I just was looking at the wrong part. Yeah. So the way that that functions is I'm going to open this and then switch my screen share over. But my laptop is running like a jet, and it does this whenever I get this open. But it's using the blueprint that they have. So whenever the V key is pushed, it just checks. It would break the camera if you are falling and you try and trigger it. It just basically records the camera locator. The most important part is there are actually 3 cameras, and this one is the standard camera boom that will track you. This one is just a reference point, which is like fixed location, and this one is built into your head. So the way it handles is the boom camera actually gets detached from the boom and goes through a timeline animation. And let me zoom out a bit. So the timeline of right here generates that output.
Vivian, I hate to interrupt because
Yeah.
this is interesting. You guys might want to take this offline, but we're running short of time here, so we really do need to move on to the next group. But thank you.
Yeah. Okay. It switches the cameras, and it's not hard. It's just a little annoying, but yeah.
Okay. Thanks for that. Next up, we have the Haunting Guild. Who needs control for that one?
It'd be me, Blake.
Blake Till. Okay, Blake. Hold on. Let me find you in the gallery. Blake. I had you and then I lost you. There you are. Okay. And to speed things up, if someone will just text me who needs control for the next one, I'll go ahead and give it to you as well. Go ahead, Blake. You're ready.
All right. Can everyone see the presentation?
Looks good.
All right. We are the Haunting Guild. Second update. And just to go over the overview again, it's an open world concept, day-night cycle. We're going to have various sort of environments, forests, mountains, rivers, plains, with localized weather effects for those different environments. And sort of the main mechanic of the game is during the day, you'll see animals and sort of real world NPCs wandering about, and at nighttime, those will be replaced with hostile supernatural NPCs. So the idea is that during the day, you'll be searching for items to help you during the nighttime. So currently, we're still working in these areas. I'm working on the weather effects and day-night. I've started working on NPCs and character modeling. Matthew's working on the environment building and laying out the topography, and Jerome is working on landscaping and some of the NPC work as well. So I've spent about a week kind of getting acquainted with Blender. It's not too bad. It's a little bit easier to use than Maya, so not been terrible. This is just sort of a mock-up of a ghost character I was sculpting while I was getting acquainted with the system. What I'm working on right now is building the player character model. And I think the way I want to do this to simplify it, I like the default animations that you can use with the player character in Unreal. And if you make a model and you rig it with bones that match up to the bones that are in the default model, you can use those same animations without it causing any issues. Oh, I'll hand this over to Matthew. I can do it. There we go.
So yeah, we can't hear you. The question
Yes,
is, are you logged
I
into
went
two
over to
different sessions?
I went over to Blake's. My laptop, I don't know what's happening to it.
Well, if you guys are in the same room, you
Yeah,
can
we're in.
definitely get feedback between your two machines. That's what's happening.
So yeah. So I've been working on the on the topography and stuff, getting the map right. And this is currently like a video of what it looks like. I'll just have it running and stuff as I talk about it. So what I've used is basically like the area is a real world location near Mount Everest in Washington, the state. So I've also been able to edit the height as well in some areas.
I'm sorry, you confused me. Mount Everest in Washington State?
Sorry, Mount Olympus. Mount Olympus.
Mount Olympus.
Sorry.
Okay.
My bad. And I edited it a bit because it was really mountainous and it was hard to walk around in. So I've been able to like shorten some areas and smooth it out so that way you can actually run and walk on it. So what I plan on doing is editing it a bit more because currently it's not as big as I kind of want it to be. And then obviously making like terrain and stuff, plants. So. It's kind of just me going around the map and stuff. I'm trying to make it look like there's going to be mountains that you're surrounded by, and then at the end there'll be a lake on the where I'm heading right now in the video. So, I guess I can hand it.
Wait, where? Okay, so over the break, I became more familiar with Unreal. It's not as bad as I thought it would be. More particularly, I've been working on landscaping. So this is a screenshot of just a basic small scale landscape structure. As you can see, it's not really too complicated or complex. What I will be working on is making it look more realistic. So adding like water effects, erosion, and just a variety of advanced features that Unreal offers. Also, I want to get used to Blender as well. So I might start working on that in the next couple weeks as well. And, that's about where I'm at.
Okay, sounds good.
And that's
Is
what
this it? You'll have a demo, or is this it?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. Thank you. We're kind of pressed for time, so let's go on and move to graphical insanity. I'd asked who needs control for graphical insanity? Evan. Okay. Evan. Let me find you, Evan. Okay, hold on. Take it away, Evan.
All right, let me just share my screen real quick. Can y'all hear me okay?
Sounds good.
All right, let me know if you can see this properly.
Everything's good.
Awesome, awesome. And I believe Zach is kicking us off, if I'm correct. So Zach, if you want to take it away.
Zach, if you're speaking, you're on mute. And if you're speaking, Zach, you're still on mute. Evan, why don't you take over since we're
How about
really
now?
pressed for time? Now we can hear you. Yes.
Okay, there we go. Hey guys, Team Graphical Insanity. Next slide. Okay, so we have Alex, Evan, David, and Zach. And just to refresh your memories, we've been working on an underwater exploration game set like in the Bermuda Triangle, where the player has to find a black box for a downed plane. And we've been slowly updating our basic plan of everything. If we want to, next slide. So we've updated our whole like Trello board setup, and we've like, we did have a couple of group member like specific categories, but we mainly moved it over to like story oriented like systems, and then just have like members assigned to each of them. If who wants to take over for that, for the Trello?
Okay, so I'll take over with that. I don't have a camera for my desktop, so I'm currently, because everything I'm doing on my desktop right now. So, all right. So for the Trello board, how this is set up, how you wanting us to present at the end of every week and stuff, made it kind of clear that you want this to be developed in an agile fashion. And so we made a Trello board that pretty much used an agile way of developing. So we have so if you want to switch to the Trello board, even Evan. All right, so
okay. Again, we're really pressed for time. You guys have a Trello board. That's good.
Right.
What have you actually done though, as far as developing? Where do y'all stand? Do you have a demo? Do you have something to show us?
I can take over from here, Alex. I have the demo ready. So we do have a GitHub repository, but being pressed for time, I'll gloss over this as well and just get right to the demo and what we have taken care of, if that's all right.
Cool. That would be great.
All right.
Thank you.
So being a water-based game, it was really our priority to get some water effects working early on, and this is kind of a proof of concept for that. And I have that opened up right in here. So if I launch this, see I have the surface water kind of moving using the default Unreal Engine stuff. And if I jump in, it applies a vignette effect, if I'm saying that correctly, and changes the tint. And I've also, there's no animations for it, but I've changed the movement so that it's based on where the camera is facing rather than the directional inputs. So you can swim. Hopefully for the next sprint, we'll have animations or something to go along with that, so it doesn't look like he's just kind of running on air. But this has been our progress so far. And I also have the code for this set up just for the movement in case you're interested. It just changes it, detects whether or not they're swimming, and uses the world rotation to do the movement.
Okay, this is a good start. So you're working on your water. Can you scope out from that a little bit and give us an idea of where things are going to be going?
So
what will we see for the next sprint, for example?
For the next sprint, I want to have our landscape done, a rough landscape full of water, the ability to move about that landscape, and animations for moving about that landscape.
Yeah, you can go back to the Trello to show them, Evan.
Yes. Yeah, on the Trello, this is our current goals for the very next sprint. And this would be like adding bubbles, currents, making the water more realistic, adding pebbles, rocks, like damaged like plane remnants. That's a much better word. Maybe even a vehicle avatar, drone, some sort, something maybe besides a person moving about at that depth, and fish and such, adding to the believability.
Will there be, is this more of an environmental simulation, or will there be gameplay aspects?
It is mostly an environmental exploration based thing, looking around, exploring, finding little hidden things we've dotted around the play area.
We have extended goals of including monsters and stuff, but that won't be focused on until the end of the quarter, for at least if we have time. So.
Okay. I was
Yeah,
just
that's-
curious. I mean, you guys can see that projects run the gamut between, you know, some that are very, you know, that are very much centered on the gameplay, to others that gameplay plays very little aspect to it, and both are fine. There's no, you know, one or the other that is the right way. It's whatever your teams want to do. Of course, if you are focusing on gameplay, you know, the graphical elements are still, quote, the most important, end quote, because this is, you know, mainly a computer graphics class. But this looks good. Anything else?
That's all. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, anyone?
I see one from Eric.
Eric has a question, it looks like.
Let's see. It's kind of closed me off from the chat here.
Is your water shader / material an Unreal built in, or did somebody make it?
The water itself is a cube that I put in there and made it like no collide with anything, so you can just move about the cube, and gave it that water texture. And then below it is a post-processing zone with a also a physics zone that it just has a water checkbox, so that it makes the character kind of slide around a bit. It's 3 overlapping layers.
Okay.
But, I'm having trouble getting to the chat. So if there's any questions in the chat, oh, there we go. There we go.
Yeah, there are no more at the moment.
Yeah, the water shader
Anybody-
is just a post-processing effect for the most part.
Anyone have any other questions? Okay, well, again, you know, this is recorded, so if you want to go back and look at your presentation to, you know, it's always painful but instructive to look at ourselves recorded. Believe me, I find it not the most pleasant thing in the world to review my videos, but well, you know, it is what it is. So anyway, we'll call it quits here for today. Monday it'll be back to lecture. If you guys have any questions, you can always get me by email. Okay, take care. Have a good weekend. Talk to y'all later. Bye.